Musicfest. According to a press release, November 16th, 2010, by the Union County Watchdog Association, the cost of Musicfest was quoted as $1,029,670. And I don't know if it was in response to this, but former county manager George Devaney strongly objected to that. Said stuff like silly, like the $1 million, $2 million figure was out of line. Tuesday, the Union County Prosecutor's Office put the number of the cost of Musicfest in 2010 at $1,121,573. The entire difference was pretty much $100,000 to UC PAC that they uncovered that the Union County Watchdog didn't. So it was almost to the dollar what the UCWA came up with and was ridiculed for. Now I make this point because it's not a unique situation with George Devaney. And it's a reflection on everybody up there. I mean, I know you got to kind of give him some slack. I mean, he's running the stuff, but when you see something silly like that, because it's not unique. There was also the O'Sullivan report where, you know, and this I know cold because I'm an actuary and I saw the report and it was just this silly thing where they had a spreadsheet that they added 3% to. No way is it paying for lifetime health benefits, and it was passed off as honest. Now, whether that's sloppy, and then there's also golf, making money in golf in 2010, when it really didn't. There were so many factors involved there. So it's a general pattern that might have been going on for 8 years. I mean, George Devaney was county manager. I think there should be a review of everything he did. Hopefully from here on in, you'll be better and maybe take an interest in this and maybe question more. Because to date, there's a very good reason Union County is so high in taxes, and I think one of them was George Devaney.
On Tuesday, the Union County prosecutor released his findings into his investigation into the Musicfest. And part of his recommendations, it's a 64-page document, part of it is recommending that the county do not align themselves with any one organization, nonprofit organization, recommending that county employees not be involved with collecting cash for this organization, and it's more detailed than that. But here they are 2 days later with this resolution on the agenda approving the Love, Hope, Strength Foundation again. So they ignored, in my opinion, they ignored the prosecutor's recommendation. Staying on the topic of the prosecutor's report, he just issued it on Tuesday. I only got a copy of it at about 4:30 today. I didn't have really enough time to really look at it closely. I did issue a statement on it. You can find it on the County Watchers along with the report. I recommend you read the report. It's very interesting. Line by line, it's an extremely interesting report. Apparently, whoever pulled this together for the prosecutor did do, it seems, a decent job of an audit of what occurred. The Union County Watchdog Association, we did the best we could without subpoena powers, and I think we came pretty much almost around to the dollar of what the prosecutor is saying the Musicfest actually cost. So that was kind of impressive. I appreciate that he did that much, but I still think that this is smoke and mirrors to cover up really nefarious. He did stop short of calling for a criminal investigation. County employees in the past have been in trouble for a lot less. There are people in the jail that are there for doing a lot less. There are people being prosecuted now in the Union County Courthouse for doing a lot less than what occurred here. But the county claims, the county prosecutor is claiming that there's no need for a criminal investigation.
You can do a separate video on it. You want to do a separate video on
We probably will. You know, if you watched what we did on Musicfest, we went through so much work, John and I and Mary Ellen Taylor. And maybe we'll do a follow-up. We'll really compare what the prosecutor found to what we found, because I'm really proud of our work. I think we did an outstanding job, considering we were just using Oprah, and even the prosecutor said they had a hard time following the money here because there were no receipts kept. The county wasn't demanding, wink, wink, they weren't demanding that these third parties handling Musicfest submit receipts so people like me can't come along and look at what they're doing. Gee. So I think we did a really good job pulling it together despite not having the powers of subpoena and being able to interview people. I think we really pulled it together too. But the prosecutor did stop short of calling for a criminal investigation. It's pretty scathing about how cash was handled, how it was laying in a county safe, unaccounted for, undeposited for, and they found cash and it wasn't deposited. There's no records of the cash, and we're supposed to believe that it was $30-something thousand. Well, maybe it was $130-something thousand. We can't ever know. And how could the prosecutor not know without looking into it as a criminal investigation? If it was supposed to be any comfort that George Devaney resigned as of August 1st, well, guess what? My sources tell me George Devaney is very much involved with 2011 Musicfest planning in the county building. He's been having meetings in the Ralph Froelich building in Westfield with county employees, planning 2011 Musicfest since he's retired August 1st. So I don't know if the county prosecutor knew this or if this is going to come as a surprise to him. If anybody bothers to tell him, I'm not going to bother to tell him. But he's really looking foolish in this, and it really stinks. And I am going to bring it up. I'm going to waste a stamp and a phone call to the U.S. Attorney General's office, and I'm also going to keep pressure on Chris Christie, our hero governor. And gee, I don't know. You're not looking like much of a hero to me lately. It seems like he's looking pretty dirty in all of this. He just seems to be turning a blind eye to his political corruption. He should know better than anyone that this needs to be reformed, that government cannot be expected to police itself. And that's just what happened here. The Union County prosecutor investigated, funded by the freeholders, investigated Raymond Leziak's nephew. And this was his findings, that there's no criminal investigation warranted. Not one county employee has been held accountable. I can't repeat that enough. I've been getting emails and phone calls. People are furious. No one else could get away with this. No one. People have been fired for much, much less. People have been indicted for much, much less. And this is what occurred here. Not one county employee has been held accountable, including freeholder Sullivan's niece, who was in charge of running Musicfest. They created an entire department to oversee these events, and according to the prosecutor, not one person was in charge, not one person was held responsible. It was, it was a mishmash. You can't really blame anyone for this. No one was in charge of this $1 million event, as the Union County Watchdog Association has been saying all along. Not just in 2010, 2009, 2008. We have never been able to obtain the cost of Musicfest, and I stood at that microphone right in front of the prosecutor's office. They always have somebody in that room, and said, I want a full accounting of Musicfest. Year after year, dozens of times a year, the prosecutor never had any interest in this. They just continued on business as usual every year, disrespecting the public. This has been going on for years, until I asked the state attorney general's office to look into it, and lo and behold, they called the prosecutor, and oh, never mind, state, we're taking care of that. We're going to look into it. It stinks. I'm so disappointed in Chris Christie. I believe he's going to lose an election over all of this, over all of his lack of oversight of political corruption. He should have been one of the first things he did, was to put in simple solutions to this, as if county government cannot oversee county government. They cannot do that. I don't know. I can't say enough about it. I'm tired. I can't imagine any business person getting away with this. If you're not prosecuted, you're at least going to be fired. You're going to be made to make restitutions. There would be so many negatives to this, but no, the prosecutor can't even say that one person did anything wrong. And if they're claiming that it's George Devaney, well, Romenko, George Devaney is still working on the Musicfest. How is he doing that? Right inside a county building, he's doing this. So who is held responsible here, and who's looking foolish? I know I'm not. We're not looking foolish. We did a really freaking good job. Who's looking foolish here? And what did George call us? When we said Musicfest was $1.something million, I don't recall what he said, but you did. What do you call us? Idiots, silly numbers? What words did he use?
I'll find it. He said 300,000 or 400,000. He said the million, 2 million was ridiculous. And by the way, the 2 million comes in from the employees who are working on this year round. There are miscellaneous things, regular time. This is pretty much a minimum. The prosecutor's office came up with 1.12 million, and there's stuff that they could have missed, and plus the regular employees. It was pushing 2 million. 1.5 might be fairer, actually. But I wanted to just read one paragraph from this, and the report is very good. They took apparently 5 months to do this. And when you release something like this, it's read, reread, words are discussed, like should we use that or not. So they're very important. They kind of take their job seriously in most prosecutors' office. But you really have to read between the lines. And this is worth a blog where we could excerpt this. But for now, just this excerpt. The Love, Hope, Strength organization ran the beer garden. And it says here they generated a significant amount of cash through the sale of alcoholic beverages. The money was collected by county employees. The money was then ultimately transported to the Union County Administration Building, where it was placed in a safe at the Union County Finance Department. Now, I'll stop reading there. Look at what they're saying. A significant amount of money. The money was then. But then they go into the total amount placed in the safe was $37,507. Now, when they started off this paragraph, why didn't they say Love, Hope, Strength Beer Garden generated $37,507?
They can't state that.
Because there's no proof of that. They said a significant amount of money and they can't go further. They are obviously saying, we found $37,507, but there was a lot of money raised. That's what they came up with, and there's no, where do you go from there? There could have been 50,000, it could have been 60. I mean, it's beer. It's Sullivan, it's Mirabella. Come on.
I wonder if they counted. How many kegs did they buy?
Or the kegs, yes, as they're saying in the background. Right. They could have gone back in the kegs, but nothing here. They just say, they make that sift. Significant amount of money, then they go 37,507 because they found in the safe. Now the paragraph goes on. These deposits were made incrementally by George Devaney. I'm guessing he took them from the safe into some bank account. When questioned as to the reason behind this method of deposit, Devaney informed our investigators that he did this as a safety precaution because he was not comfortable carrying large amounts of cash at one time. He's going from the the building into his car, from the car into a bank.
Well, why didn't he have his chauffeur, Debbie, drive him to the bank? He has a chauffeur. One of the county police supposedly drives him everywhere to parties and everything. Why didn't he have him count? And George, you bring up a very good point. And
$10,000. There's a banking regulation. If you deposit $10,000 and up, the bank has to notify the FBI because they put that in maybe about 8 years ago because of drug dealers depositing large amounts of money. So the cutoff is $10,000. If you deposit anything under $10,000, the bank doesn't do anything. Over $10,000, a report is actually generated as to who deposited the money. Very interesting that he deposited it incrementally.
Because he was afraid to carry large amounts of cash. I wonder what Freeholder Sullivan said about that. I mentioned one time at a meeting that people were afraid to come to Elizabeth, and Freeholder Sullivan went off, "You're frightening people." I know. So I wonder what Freeholder Sullivan says about that. The county manager was afraid to walk around getting his car under the county administration building and go to a drive-through bank. So, anyway.
Well, there's also, that's the disturbing part. There's also money from the Kids Kingdom, which the prosecutor went into, that also ended up in a safe in the finance department here. Now, I don't know if there are other instances where money is lying around in a safe, but that doesn't seem terribly appropriate, especially in these 17,000 from the Kids Kingdom, 37,000 from beer. There's money. Why do they need that much money lying around in a safe? And that's just one of the issues in this report. That
who would do that? Who would do that in any normal circumstances, especially if it's not your money? If it's not my money, I'm going to be even extra careful. I'm responsible for that money. It's for a nonprofit organization. It's a supposed good cause. I'm just going to throw that money in a safe and just like, oh, it's safe, you know, I know it's there. And where is the director of finance in all this, Lawrence Caroselli? Why wasn't he required to keep some kind of record of what was in his safe, under his jurisdiction, in his department? Why wasn't he held responsible for that? Someone should be held responsible for not having any accountability for this cash. Someone. If this was real life, someone would be in trouble for this.
There's got to be a log, like an evidence safe. They got to log it in and out. Nowhere was that mentioned.
No, it wasn't mentioned because it wasn't done. Nobody kept account of it. Nobody kept account of it. No one. Not the finance director, not the county manager, not the county employees. I mean,
I found 15 grand. I didn't know it was there.
I'm just like the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. It just like crippled banks where they had to put all these controls in on how employees acted and what they did with what documents and what they did with money. And here's government getting away with this. Oh my God, they caused the banking of millions and billions of dollars of having to implement regulations on how they went about their business. And here's government doing this and getting away with it. No one was held accountable for this. No one. They all walked, and George Devaney is still working on the Musicfest. He's still working on the Musicfest.
Yeah, to finish up the whole Musicfest thing, I went up there and made the analogy. It's Musicfest, it's just one aspect, and it's a fairly simple aspect. I mean, I think you could run a Musicfest. It's not that complicated. But what about all the other things he's responsible for? He's running a prison. He's, you know, just through it. It's a $500 million organization. And he runs this, well, 1.12 million officially project, and he thinks it's 300,000. I mean, project that out. You know, 500 million. Is he really spending $2 billion on this? And I wasn't going to ask, but it's an obvious question now that you see that there is money in safes. You know, maybe next time, and they wouldn't have answered anyway, but the question would be, you know, how much money is in that safe at Union County somewhere? How much money do you have stashed now?
They have. How many safes do they have? Is that the only safe in Union County? Maybe there's more.
How do they keep track of it? What was the most amount they have? What do they do with the money? You have $40,000 in a safe.
What is going on with the golf course cash? What's going on with that? I believe it was just a few short years ago, someone in the Parks Department, I don't know if she was indicted, but she got fired because the checks that people wrote, those little checks for permits, park permits, you know, like $10, $20 checks, they were never deposited. So that county employee was fired because she never deposited those checks. And there might be more to the story than that. But just to give you an idea of what George Devaney got away with here. And he's still running Musicfest. Still involved with, very much involved with county government, with county vendors, and the freeholders are claiming they don't know what his involvement is, even though he recused himself, found it necessary to recuse himself about 2 weeks before he left. He had to recuse himself, but no one seems to want to say why. They probably don't know why. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting and evil. There are people in jail. This prosecutor sends people to jail for much less, and he's turning his back on Devaney, on county government. He's just saying, oh, nothing wrong here. You know, I don't know what's going to become of these people. They're not going to be punished on earth, but they're going to have much worse punishment.